Right, what's the best exercise to work your chest? Well, before we talk about exercises, we need to focus on muscle function and correct exercise execution. So, muscle function. So when we're talking about the chest, we're talking about pectoralis major. Your pecs, the big muscle at the top of your upper body. Right? So the role of this muscle is to bring the upper arm in towards the centre of the body. It attaches here at the sternum, and the muscle runs across the chest to the upper arm where it attaches to the humerus. And all that muscles do is lengthen and shorten. When we take the upper arm away from the body, the muscle lengthens. When we bring it back in towards the centre of the upper body, the muscle shortens. Okay? So if we focus on the upper arm here, take it away, this is where the muscle is in its fully lengthened position. And then when we bring the upper arm in as close to the centre of the body as we can, we've shortened this muscle as much as possible. Okay? So that's what we're looking to do with that muscle. So when we're working the chest, we're either going to press or we're going to fly. Okay, so whether it's barbell, dumbbell, or even the press up, we're talking about this movement here, this horizontal push. Okay, and then when we're looking at flying, whether it's with a cable or whether it's with the dumbbell, we're keeping the arm fully extended, slight flexion in the elbow, but we're just taking the dumbbell, the cable attachment away from the body, and then bringing it back in towards the body. On both occasions, the upper arm is performing the same action. Okay, whether the elbow bends or not doesn't change what this limb does, so it doesn't change what the muscle does. We take the arm away from the body, whether we're pressing or whether we're flying, and then we bring the upper arm back in towards the middle of the upper body. So that's the muscle function, nice and simple. Just take the upper arm away from the body and bring it back in towards the middle of the body. So now we've got to think about exercise execution. So when we're pressing or when we're flying, we want to make sure that we maximise the use of this muscle. So when we're doing a press, whether we're doing a dumbbell bench press, a barbell bench press, or a press up, we've got three muscles that are contributing to being able to perform that movement. The pec is the main one. This is the one that we want to isolate as much as possible. However, we do get some activation of the anterior deltoid, the muscle that sits at the front of the shoulder. And then if we're pressing, we've got flexion and extension of the elbow, which means we're activating the triceps. Now, in order to minimise the contribution of your triceps and your anterior deltoid and maximise the use of the pecs, we need to make sure that we set it properly when performing this exercise. So, if the tricep is working when we're flexing and extending the elbow, it means that we don't want to take a grip on a bar too narrow. And when we're lowering the dumbbells towards the body, or when we're setting ourselves up for a press up, we don't want to start too narrow and finish narrow. Because if we do, that's going to elicit more bend at the elbow, and the more we bend at the elbow, the more we're going to work the triceps. So if you just think of a barbell bench press for the moment, if we grip here, lower the bar down towards the chest, we've got full flexion in the elbow, so we've got a lot of that tricep activation. However, if we grip outside the width of the shoulders and we finish there, less bend in the elbow, less tricep activation. So that's focusing on the amount of movement we have at the elbow. So now the only other joint that we're moving at is the shoulder. Now in order to minimise the use of the shoulder and maximise the use of the pec, we need to make sure that we retract the shoulders. Okay? So all that basically means is pull shoulder blades together. Because if we don't, if we protract, then the shoulder sits in the front of the socket, which means as we drive the elbows back, the shoulder's in the front of the socket, and these 2 points here, the two attachments to the pec, on the sternum and up by the humerus, they don't get away from each other as much as we want to. Which means by sitting in the front of the shoulder, we're going to use the anterior deltoid at the front of the shoulder a lot more than we want to as well. So by bringing the shoulder blade back, when we open up the chest, as we drive that elbow back, we can take these 2 points at either end where the muscle attaches, as far away from each other as possible, so we can maximise the stretch of that muscle. Which is what we want to do, just so we can maximise the use of that muscle. Okay, so nice and simple. No matter what pressing exercise you do, and no matter what flying exercise you do, you want to make sure that to set yourself up properly, we retract and then suppress the scapula. And nice and simple, all that means is pull your shoulder blades together and then drop them down. Once we're in that retracted and suppressed position, if we're benching with a dumbbell or with a barbell, we're looking to drive the elbows down towards the ground as much as we can. Then keep those shoulders back as we bring our hands back towards our start position, squeeze in the chest as much as possible, driving the inside of these elbows in towards each other as we bring in the humerus in towards the centre of the upper body. If we're flying, same thing. Set up, shoulders back and down, and then just take the upper arm away from the body, drive the elbows as far back as we can, and then bring them back in towards each other. Nice and simple. Alright, so exercise selection. For me, it's the exercises that are going to allow you to get into this position the easiest. If we're talking benching, then I prefer a slight incline. Now most people will think this will have more anterior deltoid activation, and to a degree there's some truth in this. So if we're in a fully upright seated position, that's where we're doing a shoulder press, that's where we're fully using the anterior deltoid, which is what we're trying to avoid doing. When we go onto a slight incline, we've got a little bit more anterior deltoid activation than we do on a flat. However, I find that it's far easier to get into that retracted and suppressed position when we're on a slight incline than when we're on a flat, especially for beginners. Because when you're on a slight incline, gravity is working for you. If you're on a flat, and especially if you're on a decline, it's a lot harder to get into that retracted and that suppressed position. Okay? And starting on an incline, and also by using dumbbells, you can make sure that you take the elbows away from the body as far as you can and bring them back in towards the midline and get a full squeeze on that muscle as well. So when we're on a bar, we're limited by our grip as to how much we can bring the elbow in towards the centre of the body and how much we can fully shorten that muscle. So although variety is important and that we do want to expose the muscle to various forms of different stimuli, I am a big fan of an incline dumbbell bench press. And then if we're going to isolate the muscle, if we're going to do a fly, then I prefer a cable option. Reason being, if I'm doing a dumbbell fly, at the moment when I'm lying down on the back, if I'm doing a flat dumbbell fly, all the tension is running through the arm. Gravity is pulling the dumbbell in that direction, directly towards the ground, which means all the tension going through the arm, and at the moment there's no tension really on the pec. I can move the dumbbell away slightly and there's still not a huge amount of tension on the pec itself. It's not until I get into that fully stretched position that there's maximal tension applied to the muscle. Then as I'm coming in, less and less tension is being applied to the muscle right up until the point where I get to the top where there's not a huge amount of tension applied to the muscle at all. If I'm using a cable option, and especially a wide cable option, so not necessarily like this one that I demoed, a wider cable option, then the point of tension is further away. And if the point of tension is over there to the side of me, then there's tension applied to the pectoral immediately when I'm in that fully lengthened position, but also when I'm in that shortened position, because the point of tension is over there, it's still trying to pull the arm that way, so the pectoral is still having to work to keep the upper arm in towards the midline of the body. Make sense? Right, however, there's one exercise that for me supersedes all of this. If you're advanced, then it can potentially be thrown in as part of your warm-up. If you're a beginner, then it can be sufficiently challenging, and that's a raised push-up. So press-up is a good exercise, just like all body weight exercises are, and can be sufficiently challenging. However, with a raised push-up, it allows you to go beyond where the ground is, so you can fully stretch that muscle. If you're just doing a press-up on the floor, you get to that point there where your hands meet your chest, and you can't go any deeper, so you can't get a full stretch on the pectoral. However, getting into that raised position allows you to work through a full range of movement. However, also because gravity is pulling towards the ground, it allows you to make sure that you retract those shoulders. It's very hard to do a press-up in that protracted position. We can bench in that position, but it's very difficult, I found, in my experience of working with people, that you naturally fall into that you naturally fall into that retracted position with your shoulders back when you do an incline press-up. So that's a long way of saying, if you're a beginner, start with the press-up. Make sure that you master it. Remember, don't forget your ego. The muscle doesn't understand load. The muscle only understands tension. So your pecs don't know that you've got 50, 60, 70 kilos on the bar, which for a beginner is a reasonable weight, or whether you're doing a press-up on the ground. The chest, it doesn't understand that. All it understands is tension. You can apply just as much tension to that muscle using your body weight as a resistance on a raised press-up as you can on the bench with a 50 kilo loaded bar. There's no shame doing body weight exercises. At least by doing this, you can know that you're applying maximal tension to the chest because you've got the shoulders retracted, rather than getting on the bar, benching and dominating the exercise with your anterior deltoids. So next time you go in the gym, leave the ego at home, focus on form, focus on control, focus on working through that full range of movement. Start with a few bodyweight press-ups, go onto an incline bench, finish off with a cable fly, and that should be more than enough to get those pecs flying.